Tired of being controlled by your emotions? Feeling like life's chaos is always one step ahead? What if I told you there's a way to take the reins and own your mindset? With Stoicism, you can turn your emotional turmoil into unstoppable power. Stick around, hit subscribe and ring the bell. Let's unlock your true potential, starting now. I will divide the 6 key points you need to control your emotions and discipline your life. The last one is the key. Point 1: emotions are natural, but reactions are a choice. Emotions are a natural part of the human experience. Every day we face moments of frustration, joy, anger, and sadness, often triggered by external events and interactions. What makes us different from animals, however, is our ability to choose how to respond to these emotions. Stoicism teaches us that while emotions themselves cannot be avoided, our reactions to them are fully under our control. The key to emotional mastery lies in realizing this truth, that we hold the power over our own minds. When we react impulsively to a situation, we often find ourselves overwhelmed by the emotion at hand. For example, you may get angry in traffic or feel anxiety before an important presentation. These emotional reactions can cloud your judgment and prevent you from acting in a way that aligns with your values. In such moments, we tend to forget that we have the ability to pause, reflect, and make a choice rather than reacting blindly. Stoicism emphasizes that this pause, this ability to choose, is where our true power lies. The great Stoic philosophers, such as Marcus Aurelius and Seneca, often reflected on the nature of emotions and how they can either guide us to wisdom or lead us astray. They understood that our emotions are not inherently good or bad, they are simply reactions to our thoughts and beliefs. Therefore, it is not the emotion itself that is problematic, but rather the way we allow it to shape our actions. When we react to anger with more anger, or to fear with avoidance, we create a cycle of emotional turmoil that becomes difficult to break. On the other hand, if we take a step back and examine our emotions with a calm mind, we can begin to understand their true nature. Why are we angry? What is the source of our anxiety? In many cases, emotions arise from unmet expectations or our perception of things being out of our control. By challenging these beliefs and adjusting our expectations, we can change the way we feel and respond. This process is known as cognitive reframing, and it's a technique rooted deeply in Stoic philosophy. It's not about suppressing or ignoring emotions, but understanding them and choosing a more rational response. A key element of this process is self-awareness. The more aware we are of our emotional states, the better we become at managing them. Practicing mindfulness or meditation can help us tune into our emotions as they arise, giving us the chance to make a conscious decision on how to handle them. When we are mindful, we can detach from our immediate emotional reactions and create space for a more thoughtful response. This is a powerful tool for emotional control, and over time it becomes a habit that is second nature. The Stoics also taught that we should never let our emotions control us, as they can lead us down paths of irrationality and unnecessary suffering. For instance, someone who is constantly angry may lash out at others, damaging relationships and creating unnecessary conflict. Similarly, someone who lives in constant fear might avoid risks, missing out on opportunities for growth and success. In both cases, the emotions have taken control, and the individual is no longer acting with reason and purpose. Instead, Stoicism encourages us to develop an inner strength that allows us to meet life's challenges with composure and clarity. This strength comes from understanding that we are not victims of our circumstances but masters of our responses. By cultivating this mindset, we are able to maintain a sense of peace regardless of what happens around us. This sense of inner peace is not a passive state but an active practice that requires daily effort and mindfulness. The key to controlling our emotions lies in realizing that we have the power to choose our reactions. We may not be able to control the world around us, but we can control how we respond to it. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy, a philosophy that empowers us to rise above the chaos of life and live with purpose, rather than being driven by our emotional impulses. By embracing this principle, we can achieve emotional mastery and live a life of greater fulfillment and wisdom. Point 2. Discipline the mind, master the self. A disciplined mind is the foundation of a well-lived life, and it is through discipline that we unlock our true potential. Stoicism teaches us that self-control is not just a virtue, but a practical tool that enables us to navigate life's challenges with calm, focus, and resilience. Without a disciplined mind, we are vulnerable to the whims of our emotions, external circumstances, and the pull of fleeting desires. When we allow ourselves to be swept away by our impulses, we lose the ability to make conscious, intentional decisions that align with our values and long-term goals. This is where the power of mental discipline comes in. The Stoics believed that a disciplined mind was essential for leading a virtuous life, one that is guided by reason, not by emotion. They understood that the mind is like a muscle. The more we train it, the stronger it becomes. Just like a muscle that grows through resistance and consistent effort, the mind grows stronger when we face challenges with self-control and focus. Over time, this mental discipline becomes automatic, allowing us to maintain composure even in the most difficult situations. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate a disciplined mind is by practicing mindfulness and reflection. The Stoics often practiced self-examination, reviewing their actions and thoughts at the end of each day. This process of self-reflection allowed them to learn from their mistakes, acknowledge their weaknesses, and make adjustments for the future. In today's world, this practice is more important than ever. We are constantly bombarded with distractions, social media, work demands, and the noise of everyday life, which can make it difficult to stay focused and intentional. However, by taking time each day to pause, reflect, and evaluate our thoughts and actions, we create a space for clarity and improvement. In addition to self-reflection, the Stoics also emphasized the importance of delayed gratification in cultivating a disciplined mind. This means resisting the temptation of immediate pleasure or satisfaction in favor of long-term well-being and success. In a world that prioritizes instant gratification, whether it's through social media, food, or consumerism, it can be easy to fall into the trap of seeking comfort in the moment. However, true discipline comes from making decisions that align with our long-term goals, even when those decisions are difficult or uncomfortable. Whether it's saying no to a tempting indulgence or committing to a difficult but necessary task, delayed gratification strengthens our willpower and helps us build a life of purpose and fulfillment. A disciplined mind also requires emotional regulation. It's not enough to simply act according to reason. We must also learn to manage our emotions so that they don't cloud our judgment or steer us off course. Emotions like fear, anger, and anxiety can distort our perception of reality, causing us to react impulsively or irrationally. By learning to recognize and regulate our emotions, we create space for reasoned decision-making. For instance, when faced with a stressful situation, we can choose to respond calmly, focusing on the facts and taking measured steps, rather than reacting impulsively out of fear or frustration. This emotional control is a hallmark of Stoic wisdom, and it is through this mastery that we become resilient in the face of adversity. Another key component of mental discipline is developing a sense of purpose. The Stoics believed that having a clear sense of purpose was crucial for maintaining focus and determination. Without purpose, we are easily swayed by distractions and external pressures, losing sight of what truly matters. By aligning our actions with our core values and long-term goals, we are able to maintain mental discipline even when faced with challenges. Purpose provides us with direction and motivation, allowing us to persevere through difficult times with strength and clarity. Finally, it's important to remember that mental discipline is not about achieving perfection. It's about making consistent, incremental progress. Just as physical fitness requires regular exercise, mental discipline requires regular practice. The Stoics understood that they would never be completely free of distractions or emotional reactions, but they also knew that every effort they made to cultivate discipline brought them closer to their ideal selves. This mindset of continuous growth and self-improvement is key to developing a disciplined mind. Ultimately, the goal of a disciplined mind is not just to make better decisions, but to lead a more fulfilling, purposeful life. By training our minds to be focused, intentional, and resilient, we unlock the power to live according to our highest values and aspirations. Stoicism teaches us that mental discipline is a skill we can develop through consistent effort, and the rewards of that discipline are immense clarity, peace, and the ability to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. It is through this discipline that we find true freedom, not from external circumstances, but from the constraints of our own undisciplined thoughts and emotions. Point 3. Focus only on what you can control. In a world full of distractions and uncertainties, one of the most powerful lessons Stoicism offers is the importance of focusing only on what is within our control. Life is filled with countless factors outside of our influence: other people's actions, the weather, global events, and even the passage of time. Yet, despite this, we often find ourselves consumed by these external forces, trying to change what we cannot control, and allowing them to dictate our emotional state. Stoicism teaches us to let go of this futile struggle and instead direct our energy toward the things we can actually influence: our thoughts, our actions, and our responses to the world around us. The first step in applying this principle is recognizing the difference between what we can control and what we cannot. For example, we cannot control how others behave, but we can control how we react to their behavior. We cannot control the outcomes of every situation, but we can control the effort we put into our actions and the integrity with which we approach them. This understanding creates a profound shift in mindset. When we focus on controlling our reactions, we free ourselves from the weight of trying to manage everything else. In practical terms, this means that rather than expending emotional energy on things like waiting in line, dealing with a difficult coworker, or worrying about the future, we can redirect that energy toward the things we can influence. For instance, we can choose to practice patience in the line, remain calm and professional with the difficult coworker, and plan for the future in a way that aligns with our values and goals. By focusing on what is within our control, we stop allowing external circumstances to govern our emotional state and begin to live with greater ease and purpose. A key part of Stoic philosophy is the idea of accepting what we cannot control. The Stoics understood that there will always be things beyond our influence, and resisting this reality only leads to frustration and suffering. For example, we cannot control the weather or the traffic, yet how many of us waste time getting frustrated when our plans are disrupted by these factors? Instead of feeling anger or resentment, the Stoics would encourage us to acknowledge that we cannot change the situation and choose to respond with equanimity. By accepting that some things are simply outside of our control, we regain our sense of inner peace and reduce unnecessary stress. This acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. Rather, it is about understanding our limitations and focusing our efforts where they can have the most impact. It is about practicing radical acceptance of what is, while also taking proactive steps to influence what we can. For instance, if we are facing a challenging situation at work, we may not be able to change the attitude of our boss, but we can choose to respond with professionalism, communicate effectively, and focus on delivering our best work. In doing so, we empower ourselves to act with integrity and resilience, regardless of the external circumstances. Furthermore, focusing on what we can control helps us to avoid the trap of comparison and envy. In today's social media-driven world, it's easy to look at other people's lives and feel inadequate or envious of their successes. Stoicism teaches us that this comparison is a waste of energy because we are not in control of other people's paths or outcomes. Instead of measuring our worth against others, we should focus on our own journey, on doing the best we can with the resources and opportunities available to us. This shift in perspective not only reduces feelings of jealousy, but also fosters a greater sense of gratitude. Focusing on what we can control also means taking responsibility for our own actions and choices. It's easy to blame external circumstances for our difficulties, but Stoicism reminds us that we always have a choice in how we respond. If we're unhappy in our current situation, we can reflect on what changes we can make within our own behavior and mindset. By taking ownership of our actions, we empower ourselves to create the life we want, rather than waiting for circumstances to change. Ultimately, the practice of focusing only on what we can control is about living with intention and clarity. It's about not letting the noise and chaos of the outside world dictate our inner state. By channeling our energy into the things that matter, our thoughts, our actions, our responses, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of frustration and anxiety that comes from trying to manage the uncontrollable. Stoicism teaches us that true peace comes from this internal focus, and that by controlling what is within our grasp, we can create a life of greater meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. The more we embrace this philosophy, the more empowered we become to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience. Point 4. Train through adversity. Life is full of challenges, and adversity is something we all encounter at some point. However, instead of viewing difficulties as setbacks or obstacles, Stoicism invites us to see them as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. The Stoics believed that hardship, while uncomfortable, is essential for developing emotional resilience and mental strength. It is through the most difficult moments in life that we forge the character needed to rise above adversity and become our best selves. When we embrace adversity as a chance to train our minds and refine our responses, we transform it from a burden into a valuable teacher. At its core, Stoicism teaches us that challenges are an inevitable part of the human experience. Rather than attempting to avoid them or wishing they weren't there, we can choose to face them head-on with courage, wisdom, and perseverance. Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, often spoke about the importance of confronting hardships directly, seeing them not as personal attacks or misfortunes, but as tests of character. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating. Instead of feeling defeated by a setback, we can approach it with the mindset that it is precisely through this struggle that we grow stronger. One of the most important aspects of facing adversity with a Stoic mindset is accepting the nature of suffering. Life is not always fair, and things will not always go according to plan. By acknowledging this truth, we free ourselves from the unrealistic expectation that life should be without pain or struggle. In fact, the Stoics encouraged us to expect difficulty and embrace it when it comes. This mindset allows us to cultivate resilience as we stop being surprised or frustrated when challenges arise. Instead, we are ready to face them with calm determination, knowing that hardship is simply a part of the human condition. Moreover, adversity provides a powerful opportunity for self-reflection and growth. In times of difficulty, our true character is revealed. How do we respond when faced with hardship? Do we react with anger, fear, or frustration? Or do we take a step back, reflect, and choose a measured response? Stoicism teaches us that we always have a choice in how we respond to adversity. While we may not be able to control the situation itself, we can control our attitude and our approach. The more we practice responding with patience, wisdom, and emotional regulation, the stronger our resilience becomes. Each challenge we face becomes a chance to practice and improve our mental discipline. Another crucial aspect of embracing adversity is understanding that it is through overcoming challenges that we build emotional strength. When we avoid discomfort or try to shield ourselves from difficult situations, we miss out on the opportunity to develop the emotional fortitude that is needed to handle life's inevitable trials. By willingly facing adversity, we train ourselves to remain calm and composed under pressure, to persevere in the face of setbacks, and to find solutions even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Over time, we become less intimidated by obstacles and more confident in our ability to navigate them. Additionally, Stoicism encourages us to take a long-term view when facing adversity. It's easy to get caught up in the moment, feeling overwhelmed by the immediate pain or stress of a difficult situation. However, Stoics remind us to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. In the grand scheme of things, this current hardship may be small compared to the larger goals we are working toward. By focusing on the long-term benefits of perseverance, personal growth, increased resilience, and the satisfaction of overcoming challenges, we can maintain our motivation and determination even in the toughest of times. A vital lesson in Stoicism is that we should not fear suffering, but instead embrace it as a tool for growth. In fact, many of the Stoics believed that we should actively seek challenges in order to build character and strengthen our mental resilience. Epictetus, for example, suggested that we should voluntarily expose ourselves to discomfort in small ways, such as enduring physical exertion or refraining from indulgences, to train ourselves in the art of self-control. This practice allows us to grow accustomed to discomfort and to develop the fortitude needed to handle greater challenges when they arise. The Stoic view of adversity also emphasizes the importance of accepting responsibility for our role in difficult situations. While not everything that happens to us is within our control, Stoicism teaches us that we always have control over how we respond. When faced with adversity, we can choose to see it as a chance to learn, to reflect on our actions, and to take ownership of our circumstances. This sense of personal responsibility empowers us to rise above life's challenges rather than passively enduring them. Ultimately, the Stoic approach to adversity is about growth through struggle. It's about viewing hardship not as something to avoid or fear, but as an essential part of the journey toward becoming our best selves. When we embrace challenges with a mindset of learning and self-improvement, we transform adversity into an opportunity for strength, wisdom, and greater emotional resilience. Every obstacle we face becomes an invitation to refine our character, and with each challenge we overcome, we move closer to living a life of purpose, clarity, and inner peace. By adopting this mindset, we not only become more resilient in the face of adversity, but we also gain the wisdom to appreciate the value of struggle in our journey of self-mastery. Point 5. Stillness is strength. One of the most profound insights that Stoicism offers is the idea that true freedom comes not from external circumstances, but from mastering our own thoughts and desires. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that happiness and peace come from external achievements, whether it's wealth, success, relationships, or material possessions. Yet, Stoicism teaches us that all of these external factors are temporary, unstable, and ultimately out of our control. The only true source of lasting freedom lies in our ability to control our internal state, our thoughts, desires, and emotional responses. By focusing on inner freedom, we are able to create a sense of peace and contentment that remains unaffected by the unpredictable nature of the external world. The Stoics believed that most of the suffering we experience is rooted in our desires and attachments. We often chase after things that we believe will bring us happiness, but in doing so, we end up enslaved to those desires. For example, we might become fixated on achieving a particular career goal, acquiring a certain material possession, or gaining approval from others. While these things can provide temporary satisfaction, they cannot guarantee lasting happiness. What happens when we achieve a goal but feel unfulfilled, or when we don't achieve it at all? The Stoics understood that if we base our happiness on external achievements, we become vulnerable to disappointment, frustration, and suffering. This is why they emphasize the importance of cultivating detachment from our desires and expectations. By practicing detachment, we learn to let go of the need for external validation and the pursuit of fleeting pleasures. Instead of relying on things outside of ourselves for happiness, we begin to find contentment in the present moment and in the things we can control: our thoughts, actions, and responses. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom comes from within. It is the ability to remain at peace and maintain a sense of joy, regardless of what is happening around us. This doesn't mean we should stop striving for goals or working towards success, but rather, we should detach ourselves from the outcome and focus on the process. When we are free from the need for external validation, we are able to act with integrity and authenticity, rather than being driven by the fear of failure or the desire for approval. Another key aspect of this internal freedom is the idea of accepting the present moment. So often we are preoccupied with either the past or the future, regretful of mistakes we've made or anxious about what lies ahead. Stoicism encourages us to focus on the present, recognizing that it is the only time we truly have control over. The past is gone, and the future is uncertain, so it is in the present moment that we can make choices, take action, and shape our experience. By fully embracing the present, we free ourselves from the constant pull of worry and regret, and cultivate a sense of peace and clarity. The Stoics also understood that our freedom is often constrained by our negative emotions. Emotions such as anger, fear, and envy can trap us in a cycle of reactivity, making us feel as though we have no control over our lives. When we allow these emotions to take over, we give away our power. However, Stoicism teaches us that we can train ourselves to recognize and regulate these emotions. By practicing mindfulness and self-awareness, we can choose to respond with calm and reason, rather than being swept away by our emotional impulses. In this way, we gain control over our emotional state and become less affected by external circumstances. A powerful Stoic practice for achieving internal freedom is the daily practice of reflection. Each day, the Stoics would take time to reflect on their actions, thoughts, and emotions. This practice of self-examination allowed them to identify areas where they had been driven by unhealthy desires or emotions, and to course correct for the future. By regularly engaging in this kind of reflection, we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and our internal landscape, which gives us the ability to take control of our mental and emotional state. Through consistent self-awareness, we strengthen our ability to choose how we respond to the world around us, rather than simply reacting out of habit or impulse. Ultimately, internal freedom is about choosing to live according to our highest values, regardless of external circumstances. It's about aligning our actions with our principles and letting go of the need for external approval or validation. When we free ourselves from the tyranny of our desires and the fear of failure, we create space for authentic, meaningful living. Stoicism teaches that by focusing on cultivating internal freedom, we can live with greater peace, joy, and purpose, unaffected by the uncontrollable forces of the external world. When we realize that we are the true architects of our happiness, we begin to see that true freedom is not found in what we have or achieve, but in how we choose to live each day. By embracing this mindset, we take control of our lives and unlock the potential for a life of clarity, calm, and fulfillment. Through the practice of Stoic principles, we gain the freedom to live with authenticity, no longer chained to the whims of external circumstances. This inner freedom becomes the bedrock upon which we build a life of purpose and inner peace. Point 6. Live with purpose, not impulse. The Stoics firmly believed that one of the most important aspects of life is the development of virtue, the foundation of which is living in alignment with our true nature and moral compass. Stoicism teaches us that our ultimate goal is not to accumulate wealth, power, or fame, but to cultivate inner excellence through wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These virtues are not just lofty ideals to strive for, but practical tools that shape how we interact with the world and with ourselves. Living according to virtue is essential not just for our own well-being, but for contributing positively to society and fostering genuine happiness. At the heart of Stoic virtue is the idea that we should live in accordance with reason. Our ability to reason is what sets humans apart from other creatures, and it is through reason that we can distinguish right from wrong, make sound judgments, and make decisions that align with our highest values. Stoicism teaches us to develop wisdom, which is the ability to discern what is truly important and to make choices based on rational thought, rather than being driven by fleeting desires or external pressures. Wisdom enables us to navigate life's challenges with clarity and perspective, avoiding impulsive reactions or unhealthy attachments. In addition to wisdom, Stoicism emphasizes the importance of courage. Courage is not just about facing physical danger, it is about standing firm in the face of adversity, acting with integrity, and doing what is right even when it is difficult or unpopular. In the modern world, courage often involves speaking the truth when it is hard, standing up for what we believe in despite opposition, and confronting our fears or insecurities with resilience. Courage gives us the strength to persevere through life's difficulties, to face the unknown, and to live authentically in a world that often values conformity and comfort over truth and virtue. Another essential Stoic virtue is justice. Justice in Stoic terms is not just about following the law, but about acting in ways that contribute to the common good, treating others with fairness, kindness, and respect. The Stoics believed that we are all interconnected, and our actions should reflect this understanding. True justice means recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every individual and striving to make decisions that benefit not only ourselves, but also those around us. It is through acts of justice that we create a more harmonious and compassionate world, where individuals are treated with the respect they deserve, and where the needs of the collective are considered alongside the needs of the individual. Lastly, the Stoics place great emphasis on temperance, the practice of self-control and moderation. In a world filled with distractions and excess, it is easy to fall into the trap of overindulgence, whether it be in food, drink, pleasure, or material possessions. Stoicism teaches us that true fulfillment is not found in excess, but in moderation and balance. Temperance is about recognizing that our desires are often irrational and fleeting, and that lasting happiness comes from mastering those desires rather than being mastered by them. When we practice temperance, we free ourselves from the constant craving for more and cultivate a sense of contentment with what we have. It is through self-control that we can avoid the traps of overindulgence and focus on what truly adds value to our lives. The ultimate goal of cultivating these virtues is to live a life of eudaimonia, which is often translated as flourishing or the good life. For the Stoics, eudaimonia is not about accumulating wealth or achieving success in the traditional sense, but about living a life that is in harmony with nature and guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When we live in alignment with these virtues, we experience a sense of peace, fulfillment, and inner contentment, regardless of our external circumstances. The Stoics understood that happiness does not come from external rewards, but from living virtuously and making choices that reflect our deepest values. By focusing on virtue as our primary goal, we also shift our perspective on what is truly worth pursuing. Instead of chasing after fleeting pleasures or the approval of others, we begin to prioritize the development of character and moral excellence. This shift allows us to experience greater inner peace, as we stop relying on external sources of happiness and begin to cultivate a sense of satisfaction from within. Moreover, when we live according to virtue, we contribute positively to the lives of those around us, creating an environment of trust, respect, and compassion. In this way, Stoicism teaches us that the path to true happiness is not one of selfish pursuit, but one of self-mastery and service to the greater good. In conclusion, Stoicism offers us a powerful framework for living a meaningful and fulfilling life. By focusing on cultivating virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we can transform our lives from one of external dependence to one of internal freedom and contentment. Through consistent practice and reflection, we can develop the emotional resilience, self-discipline, and moral clarity needed to navigate life's challenges with grace and wisdom. In doing so, we unlock our true potential and live a life that is not only rich in meaning, but one that contributes to the well-being of others and the world around us.